This is episode 2 of Camp. We're here with Socket and ZeroDev to discuss MagicSpend++, which is an extension on the Coinbase MagicSpend. So very, very excited to dig into all of that. And of course, this is coming off the back of episode 1, where we were also talking within the account layer with OneBalance and their framework. So it's going to be very, very cool to sort of hear a different approach to how Socket and ZeroDev are going. An introduction into yourself, that would be amazing. Are we getting rugged? Looks like Twitter's trying to rug us again. I'm on. Can everyone just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me now? Yeah, cool. All right, let's just redo that again and I can just cut the audio. So GM. Wouldn't be a Twitter space, wouldn't be a Twitter series without Elon and his crew trying to rug us on the Twitter spaces. It's a classic. But here we are. So we're here with Socket. We're here with ZeroDev for episode 2 of Camp, which is the second episode, of course, on the back of our OneBalance credible account discussion that we had for episode 1, which was also exploring the application layer. So very excited to take a look at sort of a different approach that MagicSpend++ is doing on top of the Coinbase framework as well. So with us today, we have VC from Socket, we have Derek from ZeroDev, and of course, Jasper, our CTO from SEDA. So very excited to chat with you all. We'll kick off with a round of introductions. VC, if you don't mind taking the mic first and giving us a little introduction to yourself and your sort of experience through the space would be amazing.
Of course, GM folks, this is literally like me GMing, and this is like the first call of my day, so apologies if I sound a little sleepy. But yeah, super excited to be on. Thanks for having me here. Been involved in sort of like the whole sort of like blockchain space for the last 7 years. Actually, I don't know if it's 7 years. I started working in the space around like 2017, 2018. Was one of the first employees at this company called Matic, which is today called Polygon. Was a protocol lead there. One of the first employees, built a Polygon POS sidechain, built the first ZK rollup in 2019. I was at the Ethereum Foundation for about a year, helping with Alex ship ETH2 before he burnt the whole roadmap to the ground. Again, like build some rollup stuff. I think largely taking care of like tech, product, engineering, all of those things at Socket for the last couple of years. And yeah, super excited to sort of be pushing heavily into this chain abstraction direction. Socket is the first chain abstraction protocol. We enable other applications to be built in this chain abstracted fashion. And MagicSpend++ is one of those applications. I'll let Derek from ZeroDev talk a little bit more about it. But yeah, super excited to dive into the MagicSpend stuff here on out.
Awesome. Hey, Derek, before you go, I just wanted to ask VC, just because you're one of the OGs in the space, when was the first time you heard the term chain abstraction?
Is that for me?
Yeah, that's for you. Yeah, since 2017. When did that first pop up? Because now, I mean, it's all the rage, right? We're all talking about it. But when did you first come across that term?
I think it was probably like near pushing some chain abstraction stuff. And at first I was skeptical. And I think like the definition is quite loose. So all of us have our own sort of like little different meanings of it. And I think that's fine. We don't need to overly complicate and overly define this thing. I think the end goal for everyone is the same. We want to make the UX such that we don't feel like we are in this fragmented world that we are in right now. So I think everyone's sort of pushing in the same direction. From via different approaches, with different methods, and that's completely fine. But yeah, I think Near was the first one.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, we're going to dive into that a little bit because I think the last thing we want is like a fragmented group of chain abstraction protocols. That's why everyone doing it slightly differently. Derek, sorry to cut you off there before, man. I'd love to have your introduction as well too, please.
Yeah, for sure, no worries. So my name is Derek. I'm the CEO and founder of ZeroDev. We are a account abstraction company. We are building what's called a embedded smart wallet, right? So basically, our customers are applications who want to embed a smart wallet into their application. in order to improve the onboarding and transaction experience of their products, right? So like through our products, they can support their users signing into the application with socials and passkeys. But also when the users are transacting, they can, like the application can sponsor gas for users. They can batch transactions. They can automate transactions. So overall, you can build a very, very smooth Web3 experience using ZeroDev, right? But obviously, like today, we are talking about chain abstraction, which leads to these new products that we are working on together with sockets, that will kind of like bring account abstraction to the next level by bringing chain abstraction into the mix as well.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Can't wait to dive on that. There's a few topics that you've already highlighted and they're super exciting as well that we're going to rip apart as well. Jasper, as way of introduction as well. You're at the engineering meetup as well. All the SEDA devs are all together right now in Portugal. So maybe to save us from your introduction again, because I know you don't like to repeat yourself every time we do one of these episodes, tell us a little bit about what's going on at the engineering meetup in SEDA right now as well.
Yeah. So just as like the one-liner, I am the CTO and co-founder of SEDA, building Oracle infrastructure, also leaning heavily into building it in a way that it will be useful for chain abstraction protocols. So yeah, we have an engineering meet now in Portugal. It is nice. We're mainly just discussing technical topics, roadmap, and hacking some things together. So yeah, we're not going to bore you guys with that, but some exciting stuff coming up.
Amazing. Thanks, Jasper. All right, let's do it. Let's dive right in. I'd love to I'm going to do this at the start of every single camp episode for our panel. So we'll start with you, VC. You just mentioned it a little bit before, but like to you, what is chain abstraction and why is it so important now in the industry moving forward?
That's a solid question, and I have like a historical answer for it. Might get a little boring, but I'll try to make it quick. I think largely all of us, including us, when it became clear to us that we are going to scale something like Ethereum by having a lot of rollups, the natural instinct there was, okay, let's try connecting them back together because that's what we've been taught since 2017, 2018. But really, that was the mistake. I think all along people were solving the wrong problem. I think the whole sort of like modular or like the rollup centric roadmap is quite different, and these are not like the sort of like general purpose chains that we've been thinking of them so far. I think largely chains are going to become more and more specific in what do they offer, how do they differentiate. So we are going to see like super fast, beefy sequencer node rollups. We are going to see app specific rollups. We are going to see chains that are only built to serve data. We are seeing chains that are only built to serve settlement, and this is going to happen more and more. So largely, like there are too many fucking chains, and the number is only going to go up. And if we have this mentality of just like connecting things, we'll be sort of like operating in this like very low bandwidth environment where things are sort of like quite frustrating for the end user, for the end app developer. And ultimately, we want to sort of like place the user in a position that is much more global. Like users ultimately care about doing a swap of USDC to USDT. They might not necessarily care about if it happens on Arbitrum or Optimism or a combination of both. So I think the whole sort of like chain abstraction sort of like vision is giving more agency to applications so they can control the user experience so much better. Giving more agency to users so they can perform actions that are being executed on chain without having to have them go and do these like actions on like 10 different chains. Like a roll up today uses two chains underneath the hood. For example, like Ethereum for settlement, let's say Celestia for data availability. But imagine if you as a user, you had to, create your own state root and post it on Ethereum, and then create your own sort of like, data packet and post it on Celestia. And you would have to sort of like, coordinate between these two things. I think largely that's what chain abstraction does. It allows you to sort of like perform on-chain actions from this global perspective and without touching the chain at all.
So really, it's just about simplifying the UX and this kind of concept of just giving users that have no real desire to be in Web3 an ability to use the applications without having to interact with any of the software under the hood, right? So we can step away from this whole like campaign that we're all doing of like educating users about Web3 and decentralization and ownership, and just give them good experiences. Is that kind of what you're alluding to?
I'm saying like people want to use Web3, but if like the way to use Web3 is by shooting yourself in the foot 10 times, then no one's going to use it. So we gotta make it so much better for Web3 to succeed. And we are going to have all of the things people care about. So non-custodial, censorship resistant, all of the good shit that people actually want, but done in a way that is actually usable by end users. And one last thing I'll say is like this is all from user perspective, right? Developers also need this. Chain abstraction is a new way to build, right? More than anything else. Now you can have your trading engine running on like a super fast, super beefy SQL.
I think we lost your mic right at the last sentence, VC, but we caught the most part of that. But we can loop back on that last sentence that you said. Yeah, you're being rugged by Twitter. I hate to hear it. We'll throw across to Derek on the back of that. You've been obviously you're building an application that's specific for chain abstraction. So Derek, I would love to hear kind of what's your take on chain abstraction. What does it mean to you, and why is it so important?
Oh, sorry. Hey, yeah. So I think like VC gave some really good responses when it comes to the perspective of the user, right? You know, like why chain abstraction is important for the users. But I think like before he cut out, you know, I think he was talking about something that I want to talk about, which is like why chain abstraction is so important for developers, right? You know, because like ultimately, what Socket and us are building are a developer solution, right? You know, so we are going to help application builders and also wallet builders integrate chain abstraction. So why is it so important for them, right? So I think like especially for applications, the reality is that like because like there are so many L2s right now, the application builders they have to accommodate for the reality that their users like they cannot count on their users only having assets on like a specific chain, right? Like their users might be coming from every single ecosystem and they want to serve them all, right? So the question like simply becomes like even if you are just for example, a single chain application, right? Your users still might bring assets from every chain, right? So then like the first step before the user can use your application is to ask them to bridge. But bridging is like super painful, right? You know, so I think someone did a research that something like 60 to 70% of users drop off before they actually bridge assets to an application, right? But the issue gets even worse if you are a multi-chain application, right? So if you are a multi-chain application, then the experience of your user using your application is that they need to have assets on all the chains before they can. Well, I mean, more like for example, like if you are using a perpetual DEX aggregator such as Quanta, right? So you go to use this perp DEX, you kind of like interact with like the Polygon market, right? But then you see that like there's like a better price on like the base market, so you want to go to the base market, but then you realize that you don't have like the assets on base, right? So it's like the experience of using a multi-chain application becomes one where like the user has to manually manage their liquidity and fragment their liquidity across all these chains just to take full advantage of the application, right? So the point is that like ultimately there's a very strong will, a very strong desire from the developers to really, because like what does the developers want? They want to onboard as many users as possible, right? Like they want to maximize their own business profits, right? So the fact that it's so hard to onboard users when the users can be having assets on so many chains is one really big driving force for why there's so much interest in chain abstraction right now from the developers.
Yeah, I think that what we're talking about here is essentially like unifying liquidity without having the liquidity all necessarily live on the same chain, right? Because historically we've thought about like, hey, we as rollups need to make sure all of the users deposit into our chain so that they can use our applications. And it becomes a super zero-sum battle where essentially it's not about the quality of the applications necessarily, it's about the stickiness of the L2 or L1 or base layer. And we're moving into this more application focused, app chain focused ecosystem in which that just isn't sustainable anymore because it would be too many bridges. It would be too much bridging. It would be a nightmare. I like to make this sort of like comparison to internet compared to intranets, where you have this idea historically where you have like applications that live on an L1. It's like Facebook is only accessible on one intranet, and if you want to use that Facebook, you need to now switch your browser to like some new provider that allows you to access this intranet from your home. It's just a really, really hardcore, low-level way to do things, and I think we're finally getting to a point where infrastructure has caught up to a point, and sort of like research has caught up to a point where we can, create this sort of like unification layer without having to make it that complex, right? Like there's complexities we can add to make it more efficient, like CK, etc. But the core idea of sort of like this intent-centric chain abstraction approach is relatively elegant in its simplicity to some degree, right? Like it's very graspable, and I think that is amazing. I'm very excited. I'm like super optimistic actually myself.
Yeah, 100%. Actually, it's a good little segue too for you, Jasper, because we've talked a lot recently about how SEDA is using an intent-based framework. So maybe you want to just quickly speak about for these like account frameworks like MagicSpend. We talked with OneBalance last week. What's SEDA's role in it? Before we move into specifically diving into MagicSpend++, where do we sit for these frameworks using chain abstraction models?
Yeah, to be honest, I want to learn more about MagicSpend++ before I would answer that. But so how I'm seeing that, it's sort of like a rolled up balance, right? So you have like a single balance or a single account to interact with many, many rollups or many L1s, L2s. Yeah, I think we would be more in the back end. So we would be an option for settling intents that are being issued through MagicSpend++, which I'm assuming it's intent centric here. Like I said, I would love to learn more. Yeah, so and for us, like internally, the intent framework is more so like it's a solver centric Oracle, which means that as soon as SEDA data lands on a SEDA chain, so you can program feeds, so you can get data from any chain, any source onto SEDA, and as soon as it enters SEDA, from there we Merkleize and sign the Merkle root of like all of the data that was finalized in a block, and then from there it's essentially bridgeable anywhere. And that's where sort of like intent-centric stuff comes in. It's like you can essentially issue an intent for data and have that fulfilled by a solver that knows that the data is available or will become available on SEDA, and then bridge that data over to be consumed on the destination chain. And the cool thing there is that you can use sort of like one standard for any data on any chain. And that's really what we're trying to build here, is like this standardification of sort of like off-chain data transport. And where the data comes from, it's like completely up to the users. Like if you have like super high decentralization guarantees and you're not as cost sensitive, then you can use CK Lite clients. If you're building something that's maybe a little bit less sensitive, then you can use, I don't know, like an array of RPC providers or a network of people running nodes. So that's sort of like where we come in within this ecosystem. And I know that the Socket team is building infrastructure where this would fit, and sort of like solvers and users and application builders can come to agreement that SEDA is a good fit there, and then sort of like a configurable modular design. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
No, perfect. That's a great summation, actually, and it's a really good lead into MagicSpend, because I've been going through your docs. I've been going through a few of the podcasts and speaking that you guys have been doing lately. You use a concept called paymasters, right, as opposed to solvers. So maybe as a good kind of way to frame MagicSpend, let's go through it from a user perspective. How does it operate from a user perspective? VC, if I could throw that question to you, and then on the back of that, Derek, it'd be awesome to hear what's going on right under the hood from a developer point of view as well. So VC, take it away.
Yeah, sure. I think Derek probably has like the best color on this, honestly. I think.
VC, I think you're muted.
Am I still muted?
No, you're coming through on my side.
Yeah, my side as well.
Okay.
Oh, okay, my bad. Yeah.
Sweet. I think Derek can add more color on this, but I think from my perspective, what really happens here is, I think there are like 2-3 reasons why I honestly am quite bullish MagicSpend++. One of them, to begin with, is that it is a single chain experience. I don't think we have anything out there that makes things a single chain experience from a user perspective. So you will go to a dApp on Base, which has an NFT with $10 as minting cost, and you will hit mint and it will work in that chain context. There is no need for you to be switching chains. There is no need for you to be thinking about other chains while you're doing that action on Base. The transaction confirmation time is the exact same as Base, right? So it's literally a single chain experience. To do this minting action, there are no two chains being involved here. So the cool thing that this enables is your transaction finality, or like we see a bunch of like bridges sort of like talking about this on crypto Twitter, that hey, we complete our transactions across chain in 4 seconds. Hey, we do it in 5 seconds or whatnot. Here it's 0 seconds. Like there is no latency because there is no cross chain, right? It sort of like converts this whole sort of like cross chain thinking into a single chain experience. So I think that sort of like really resonates with me in sort of like the direction we want to be pushing towards. We want to be building like pull-based models instead of push-based models. I talk a little bit about this in the ETH research post, but the push-based model is what we have today. You go to this NFT minting website on Base, the Base says, hey, I'll be pushing you out. Go figure out how to bring your assets on Base before you can use me. So the dApp is, the application is pushing the user outwards to sort of like figure things out and then sort of like come back. Versus what we need to be enabling is this like pull-based interaction where I click mint, the application figures out where my funds are and how do I pull those into this minting thing that this user wants to do, right? So I want to move the entire sort of like world into this like pull-based flow. So offloading complexity from the user to the underlying infra or the application itself, right? So yeah, I think from a user perspective, just to answer your question in a succinct fashion, it will look like exactly how using a smart contract wallet with an application looks right now. So you would just hit mint, a wallet will pop up with the user up, you will sign it, a paymaster will fund it, will do the gas sponsorship for you, and your transaction on-chain will succeed. But yeah, Derek probably can add like a better color to this entire UX flow.
Yeah, perfect, Derek. It'd be great to get to now move to like under the hood. So I understand that. So I understand it from a user perspective, and I understand that that's going to make a really, really great experience. But I've been reading the ZeroDev docs, so this kind of idea of like using a paymaster and moving money from the Pay account into what you guys are referring to as a CAB account. Is that something that the user is going to have to do? And then when that money's sitting in the CAB account and they make that transaction, whether it's minting an NFT or whatever, how is that money then being settled? What's the whole process from this paymaster taking the transaction load and then coming back to then? Because your tagline is what, spend now, debit later, right? So let's talk about that. How does that work?
Yeah, and we need to make him speaker again, or is that already happened? Derek had to rejoin the space.
Alrighty, good to go, Derek.
Yeah, for sure. CAB products that we are working on with sockets, it's not public yet. So there are no public documentation about this just yet. So it's in private alpha right now. We are just onboarding. We're just starting to onboard protocols. But basically, like the developer experience of these products. So basically, like we are trying to build this primitive, right? We're trying to build this primitive that we are calling the chain abstracted smart account. The chain abstracted smart account. Right. So basically, it is a smart account that a developer can spin up for their users, right? And then when their users deposit tokens into this smart account, it becomes chain abstracted, right? So for example, imagine again, just going back to my earlier example about a perp DEX, right? So the user, they will go to the perp DEX, they will sign up for the perp DEX, right? Like using social, using passkeys, using a UA wallet, whatever, right? The protocol will then spin up a chain abstracted smart account for the developer, right? Sorry, I mean for the user. So this account is going to have like the same address on every chain, right? So the user can deposit their tokens into this smart account from any chain, right? So for example, if I deposit 100 USDC from Base, and then deposits 200 USDC on Polygon, right? Now there are 300 Chain Abstract USDC sitting in my account, right? So now I, as a user, can now spend this 300 Chain Abstract USDC on any chain, like without really thinking about like what chain I'm interacting on, right? So it's like if the perp DEX has like a market on Polygon, another one on Base, another one on Optimism, it doesn't matter to the user because the user has 300 Chain Abstract USDC that they can spend on any chain. Yeah. So again, so TLDR, the developer experience is basically so to be like even more, I guess, specific, the smart accounts speaks just the normal account interface. So you guys might be familiar with like how when the user uses MetaMask, it injects a object browser called window.ethereum, right? So that object speaks a particular interface, right? So this smart account speaks the exact same interface, right? So you can use like the exact same libraries such as like VM or WACME to interact with these smart accounts. So the TLDR is basically that's the way that the developers program against these smart accounts is no different at all than, well, I mean, not really at all, but it's essentially no different than how the dev interacts with a normal wallet such as MetaMask. It's just that this account is magical, right? It's a chain abstract smart account that turns any tokens deposited into the accounts into, chain abstract tokens.
What sequences the cross-chain transactions? Like, what makes sure that there is no double spends if you try to spend like Polygon USDT or like your chain abstraction balance on two destination chains at once? Like how does that work?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Obviously, did you want to answer this?
Yeah, I'm happy to step in, right? So this is like the entire sort of like job of MOFA, right? So MOFA allows like for two things. MOFA allows a user op to be spent by n number of unknown paymasters. Otherwise, you would always be logged into a single paymaster and whatever limited liquidity they have. This is one of the biggest problems that, let's say, Coinbase's MagicSpend has. They are only able to process as much as Coinbase has liquidity on chain, right? Which is, I think, in all honesty, quite a lot. But I don't think it scales with the number of chains, right? So I think what we really want to enable is like have this like market between users and paymasters, and have users get the best execution via the paymasters, and also get the network of paymasters so they can have access to like all, again, like sounds like bullshit, but infinite amount of liquidity depending on how much you're willing to pay, right? So if you're willing to pay like $20, I'm sure someone will be willing to sort of like give you $100 to do like an NFT mint on Base,
Yeah.
right? So that's the part where MOFA comes in, and it allows you can almost imagine this like MagicSpend plus OFA, which will sort of like match the paymasters with the user op to make sure the matching is done in an optimal and in a sort of like single direction, or like, there are no double spends and all of those things.
You mentioned spending on any chain, Derek, before, and VC was talking about it as well. Forgive me if this is a silly question, but the actual account, the smart account, it's not interacting. The way that you were speaking before, sounds like it's not interacting with any chains. It's interacting with the application that's built on specific chains. Right? You're talking about the perp DEX. They have like a Polygon market, and then maybe they have a base market. Maybe there's markets on Arbitrum or Optimism, whatever. So the account itself doesn't need any native integrations or any sort of relationships between the chains. It just needs a relationship between the application that the user's connecting to.
So to be totally clear, so I guess like I see the adoption of chain abstraction happening in two stages, right? So I think like the first stage of adoption will happen at the application layer, right? So again, right now is mostly the application developers who have like a very, very, very strong incentives to solve this problem in order to onboard more users, right? So I think like the first stage of, I guess, adoption will happen when the application developers decide to integrate with a solution such as, ZeroDev, chain abstraction, in order to, I guess, solve that onboarding and transaction experience for their users, right? But I think like eventually, like all the wallets will become chain abstract as well, right? So it's like, like all the wallets like MetaMask, Rainbow, whatever, right? Like they will all become chain abstracted by integrating with the same smart accounts, the same chain abstracted smart accounts that we are building, right? So so I guess to answer your question, I think yes, like right now, we are integrating primarily with applications, who use our product to spin up these embedded wallets, embedded chain abstracted smart accounts for their users. But in the future, all wallets will become chain abstracted.
I see. Because the problem there is that even if you would use sort of your RPC, which injects this object into an application, the wallet wouldn't use your APIs yet automatically to fetch balances, right? So that's why you need these embedded applications or embedded wallets into the applications, because they will build it from first principles essentially with your primitives, right? So you get the balance unification sort of in these embedded wallets that you would not get if you would just use your RPCs through MetaMask. Does that make any sense?
I'm not sure if it's just me, but you were kind of cutting out. Was it just me or
Rug?
Rug. Yeah, maybe we were rugged again. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
So yeah, I can hear now. Yeah, could you repeat your question?
Yeah, of course. So I was saying that the problem that you're sort of solving by embedding these or like creating these easy embeddable wallets essentially is that if you would try to leverage MetaMask, they would have to fully adopt your standard, because even though you can sign transactions through MetaMask, probably, they would not display your unified balances natively in their app, etc. Right?
That's right.
That's
sort
right.
Of
like the
that's right.
Smart. I like that.
That's right. Yeah. So for a wallet to function as a chain abstracted wallet, it's not as easy as just like changing the RPC or something, right? Like it actually has to be built around this whole paradigm of just like everything from the backends, just like what powers these smart accounts, to kind of like how you read, like you said, just like how you read balances, right? For example, you cannot just like read the literal balance on the blockchain that is written in the smart contract, right? Like the chain abstracted balance is stored in like another format than like regular balances, right? So it usually requires like a pretty deep integration between the wallets and the underlying chain abstraction technology for the wallet to be chain abstracted. So that's why we are shipping the first version as a embedded wallet products for application developers. But the goal is to make our technology available to wallet builders as well.
Yeah, that's a fun challenge for sure. Getting the adoption there. Do you guys have any go-to-market strategies there of like how to get that done, or is it mainly just like proof that this is awesome with the embedded wallets, and then use that as a business case to sell to the MetaMasks of this world?
I think we can help there. I think this is a huge problem to solve, and every wallet that does this will be able to differentiate themselves better and will be able to make fees on it. 90% of the wallets in the EVM space use Socket today underneath the hood. So be it Rabby wallet, Rainbow wallet, MetaMask, Coinbase wallet, like really anything you can find on the market. So we should be able to sort of like help there and sort of like, push for adoption. And this is like something that they want. And it uses like, there is no need for a new account system for this. It uses the same account abstraction rails as everyone else. It uses the same paymasters, it uses the same bundlers, same entry point, everything is the same. And we're using like the modular smart account standard. So it's just going to be another module. So I think ZeroDev has been able to build it in a way such that we are able to leverage the existing rails. So really the choice that wallets will be making is, do we want to stick with EOAs or do we want to push the goal forward with account abstraction? And I think Vitalik and everyone else in the community is going to push pretty hard on the account abstraction side of things. So I think like we should be leveraging existing rails as much as possible and making things in a modular fashion. If you're able to stick with those two things, I think MagicSpend++ is like a very, very easy sell for the reward that it brings onto the table. You get to now spend $300 instantly anywhere, right? I think that sort of like removes like 40 steps and probably like 2 hours of me sort of like trying to kill myself. So I think like it is a pretty big value add.
Yeah, for wallets it's good because they'll see more volume go through their wallets, and all the volume is essentially them immediately sort of like selling order flow to MoFa. No, like to some extent. Through
Yeah, I mean,
MOPA, I don't know.
it's a marketplace, right? So you would be sort of like getting access to a market of paymasters. There is no other way to do it. And for you to actually scale MagicSpend plus plus, you need access to as many paymasters as possible. So I see less of like, selling your order flow, more of like tapping into a network of paymasters.
This essentially also solves for a lot of the MEV that would go to applications in the end, right? Or to wallets to begin with, but then applications as well. Is that a strange conclusion to pull, or does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. I do have to say I haven't thought too deeply about, how things will happen here. I think it definitely allows applications. Now, it could mean like front ends themselves, or it could mean wallets to capture better value than the underlying chains, right? And be more like user and application aligned. Now, how this value exactly like gets transferred between front ends, wallet, and end users, I don't know. I think we'll fuck
TBD.
around and find out. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what you're saying there does make sense if you take the stance that chains will be owned by applications into the future. Then even if all the MEV would go to the chain, it would still go to the application. So why not just create more efficient mechanisms to do transaction or handle order flow? That's interesting, right? That's actually an interesting thought where if it's actually going to be application specific chains anyway, and that's where order flow will happen, they'll have a monopoly on their users' order flow. It will not like go to like an L1 directly. Then there's really no difference whether you like it's inevitable at this point. Like both outcomes, whether there's this chain abstraction or not, like there's still going to be like a monopoly on order flow for applications. It's bullish app devs and bullish consumer, I think.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the sort of like key elements. I think we want to be sort of like very application focused and sort of like help applications build better user experiences, help developers build better chain abstracted applications, and also have them sort of like make the most out of their supply chain really. So I think all of those combined is where MagicSpend plus plus shines.
Do you think this is secretly bullish for stable coins? Because I'm thinking the way that you're talking about spending is always kind of like we refer to USDC. It's in the documentation as well. Are we going to see like crypto split into kind of two camps? There's going to be traders, right? They're going to either be short-term traders or they're going to be long-term traders that have their portfolio that's probably sitting in like a hardware wallet, perhaps, and ready to connect to an exchange or whatever it might be for trading. But then it sounds like there's going to be this other group of users coming in that may never even hold an Ethereum token, may never even hold Matic or whatever. They will just transact with a stablecoin. Is that how you envisage these applications being used?
I think maybe like one thing I want to point out that is like something that's like really powerful about the MagicSpend system is that the token you spend actually doesn't have to be the token that you own, if that makes sense. So like for example, if you own USDC, right? Like your USDC has now been chain abstracted, right? So you can spend USDC, so you can spend the USDC on every chain. But actually you can so like imagine there's like an NFT on sale, but like it's only on sale for ETH, right? Actually through the MagicSpend system, you can still make the trade, right? Because like from the perspective of the solver or the liquidity provider, it's very simply that they are paying ETH for you, but then getting paid in USDC, right? So I'm just trying to so MagicSpend is like a very like general system where like it doesn't matter which token has been chain abstracted, as long as like there's a solver that's willing to take the token you own, you can spend in any tokens, right? That's that the liquidity provider can provide. So in that sense, like we chose USDC as like one of the starting tokens, simply because like it's like widely available, right? So it's like many people have USDC across all the ecosystems, so that's why it's kind of like the English of I guess like this chain abstraction token system, right? Just like everyone speaks that token / language, but ultimately the users they can spend any tokens, by
And then the idea is essentially that the solvers would probably take a small spread on the conversion, and that's how they are incentivized to fill
That's
for different currencies.
Are we using Solver and Paymaster interchangeably here, or are these two different softwares?
Yeah.
Are they interchangeable?
They're basically the same thing in this context.
Yeah, it's just Paymasters have come up as a term for, I believe, the account abstraction and gas abstraction use cases, and then solvers are in all the intent base. So there's a little bit of there's a very round Venn diagram, I think.
That's right. Yeah. I think maybe just to kind of like clarify on the nuance here, right? So like the reason why it's a really good idea to tag solvers onto paymasters is because we then allow the solvers to also solve the gas abstraction problem, right? So here's what I mean. So like right now when you do a cross-chain bridge, right? So when you bridge tokens, you know how like a lot of like bridges, such as I think even including sockets, has this like feature of gas refill, right? So it's like when you, for example, if I bridge 500 USDC from base to Polygon, and I don't own any Matic, the bridge can do some gas refill for you by sending you some Matic, right? Because otherwise you like even after you receive the USDC on Polygon, you cannot actually use it because you don't have the underlying gas token Matic, right? So but in the MagicSpend system, again using this same example, imagine you're trying to buy an NFT on Polygon using USDC, but you don't have Matic. In this case, it doesn't matter. Like you don't actually need to receive Matic from anyone. Rather, because the solvers are paymasters who already knows how to sponsor gas for users, you can just pay a little bit more USDC to have that cover the gas fees of that transaction, if that makes sense, right? So again, you don't need both USDC and Matic anymore to perform that USDC transaction on Polygon. You will just pay a little more USDC, and then the paymaster will also cover the gas for you.
How manipulative can solvers and paymasters be? So if we get this wave of like new users coming in that are using like really heavy like consumer apps, maybe like IB-based apps like NBA Top Shot or something, not necessarily traders and not necessarily interested in the tech of it all. Is it easy for these solver networks and paymasters to manipulate users and pump the gas fees and have all this kind of like malicious background things happening?
Yeah, I think so. The short answer is that we are solving that by using a market, right? So there would be like a market of solvers, which will be competing through the modular order flow auction mechanism, aka MOVA, that's Socket is developing, right? So the user should get the best possible order, assuming there's sufficient competition.
I think VC is speaking, but again, can't hear him.
I've got him on Zoom. I think you unmuted.
There we go. There you
go. I got a little too abstracted. My bad. No, I think largely the idea over here is just like how you use Uniswap. You sort of like set bound with a min output amount. Here you can set a similar bound and let the market make it as efficient as it can. Right?
Exactly.
So the users will always be in control and the market will just be there to sort of like do discovery of how much should we actually price this user out.
Yeah, so you can use either centralized API to set a minimum price that's just like somebody that's very good at making sort of like, hey, what do we estimate this price to be for this interaction? Or for swaps and stuff, you see this with 1inch, where they basically take an aggregate of all the dexes and they can say like, hey, we can sort of guarantee you this minimum execution price, and then it's up to solvers to see if they can beat it in this following auction, right?
Yeah, I think if people have like strong confidence on the market or like, on the marketplace itself, I think you are good if you can just like, I mean, I don't recommend people do this, but you can also set your maximum fees that I want to spend to infinity. And if the market is solid, it will sort of like, still, land somewhere. I don't
Yeah.
do this.
It's going to be really interesting. How do you guys envision this working with the more obscure new chains where there's sort of like maybe like one or two very specialized solvers that only interact with them? Because then there's no real solver competition, right? So for those, you probably do need some sort of strong fallback mechanisms or different security mechanisms to try to make sure users don't get screwed.
No, I mean, really, like, it is all about like slippage and like what you said. So the market can be as efficient as you want, but if you set like 0.5% slippage, then 0.5+% slippage is what you'll get. The market cannot really take more than what you sign for. And I think that is the user guarantee that we are providing here. And as per sort of like scaling to new chains, again, I think it'll be quite contrary to what we think so far. So expanding to new chains is going to be tough for like larger players, but it's going to be a solid opportunity for new coming players to sort of like establish themselves because it's an opportunity which is not that crowded. So imagine like, there is a new sort of like Shiba Inu coin chain that someone wants to sort of like spend a user up on. I don't think Wintermute is going to be serving that chain, right? But I think there will be a hobbyist solver who's trying to make some money, who will sort of like look at this and be like, hey, there is no one there. And this guy is sort of like offering 0.1% slippage and I'll take it. It's like pretty good for me. There's no competition, right? So the user gets what he wants, solver gets to make money. And if the flows increase, more competition will exist.
Long-term solvers, long-term chain. It's long-tail solvers, long-tail chains. That's what you're saying, basically.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
That's cool.
Where are we at right now in the market for solvers? I think we touched a little bit this on with one balance, but I'd love to get your take, VC. Is we have what I envision when I learn about solvers and paymasters is that if they only exist on common networks, then we're only abstracting common networks, right? But if we move to this like app chain future, or there's like you roll-ups deploying every single day, how can we guarantee an industry-wide abstraction, or are we just going to kind of like have all like 80% of the focus on a few chains, and then those that are willing to go out to the fringes will do so? Or do you envisage one day that it'll just be, or how soon off do you envisage this, that it'll just be one single chain experience that you mentioned at the start of the chat?
I think single chain experience should be in production in the next 4 weeks. I think Derek and ZeroDev team is just like grinding out on it. It makes me super, super bullish. I just had a demo that Derek showcased in our private chat, I think like 2 weeks back, and I was absolutely blown. So I think single chain experience will be here sooner than everyone sort of like estimates. I don't know how exactly the solver landscape will sort of like, sketch out, but I think like it is not surprising that we don't have that many solvers today, because like the ask really is you need to run this software, you need to put money on it, and you need to be taking reorg risks. How does anyone take reorg risks? So like we are literally asking for an impossible job from solvers today. The markets that are live right now, especially in like cross-chain context, are super, super bad. These like solvers are competing on chain, doing gas bidding on L2s with no proper transaction supply chain and whatnot. So I think like what I'm really saying is we need to make markets more efficient. We need to make it easier for solvers to function. So there are 2-3 things we need to do to enable that. One is we need to remove the reorg risk. So that is one large difference between paymasters in MagicSpend++ and solvers in, let's say, any sort of like cross-chain intent protocol. Paymasters in MagicSpend++ do not take reorg risks, right? Reason being, you deposit into this smart contract wallet, let's say $1,000. You wait for finality on those $1,000, but after that you can spend anywhere instantly. So you sort of do this like wholesale finality to bypass individual spending finality. So paymasters don't have to take risk every time you spend. So that makes the market quite efficient. Second, what we want to enable is passive liquidity. So people that have money in the world are not running infrastructure, and people that are running infrastructure are likely not billionaires. So we need to sort of like connect both of these dots together. Secondly, we need to make it easier for people to be participating in these like auctions. We can't be running them on chain where you have to participate in a gas bidding war. Not only is it quite daunting from like a participant perspective, but it also leaks a lot of value to the underlying chain validators because you're essentially paying them to win, which should be vice versa. You should be paying the user to win, right? Those are my 2 3 points. Yeah.
How would it work? Is there no finality risk for so paymasters are solvers in MagicSpend, right? Like they still perform the action for the user on a destination chain, right? There is finality risk there, right?
No, there is no destination chain, right? So I think the idea is, let's say you have $1,000, or sorry, 1,000 USDC. You deposit into a smart contract wallet on like some source chain. You wait for whatever finality exists, right? And now it's spendable. So now you can spend like $10 on base, and Paymaster won't be taking any reorg risk because things have already been finalized. So you are sort of like if you really want to look at it from like a bridge perspective, you can think about this like mass deposit and withdraw on demand from the bridge itself. So that's like one mental model to put.
Can we double click on that real quick? So you're saying that is that because all of the applications that use MagicSpend have to be built natively to build MagicSpend, or can I use any application on any chain with MagicSpend in theory without having to have them do something?
No, I think idea is quite simple, right? There is this like module that you plug into your smart contract wallet, and when people deposit into this module, and you're good to go from there.
Okay, and then you can.
Yeah. Sorry. Just to be totally clear, when we talk about these internals of MagicSpend, such as paymasters and whatnot, like those are totally abstracted away from the actual developers, right? Like the developers, they don't think anything about this. Like they just, from their perspective, integrating with MagicSpend, integrating with like this new chain abstraction product is no different than integrating with MetaMask, right? So it's like, rather than dealing window.ethereum, you're dealing with another object that speaks the exact same wallet interface. And it's like the users will then, when they deposit money into that accounts, that's the tokens become chain abstracted. Yeah. So that's like the dream developer experience that we're building right now.
And then so sorry, I'm trying to make sure I really understand this. So if I build an application and I integrate with MagicSpend, I do that on a front end basis, right? So my front end is connected to this MagicSpend accounts, essentially, right? Like I plug into all of this liquidity that's in MagicSpend.
That's right.
If I build a front end and I support MetaMask, let's say, right?
Yep.
And wait, what am I thinking here? Like, there's nothing on the smart contract level that also has to plug into MagicSpend, right?
No.
It's just a different RPC router essentially that it goes through. Then I'm going to touch on this one more time because I really want to understand this. Because I feel like I should understand this and I don't yet. For the paymaster, that let's say I want to swap. I have $100 and I want to buy $5 worth of Shiba Inu on Shiba Inu chain, right? And Shiba Inu chain has a 500 block finality time, which is super long, but you get some pretty strong finality guarantees. So solvers would then perform that action for me, the user, right? Or paymaster, sorry, would perform that action for me, the user, on that destination chain. And then I would get added to my balance 5 Shiba Inu tokens, or whatever I said, $5 worth of Shiba Inu tokens, and I get subtracted 5 USDC. Do I have to wait for finality on the Shiba Inu chain before I get credited those balances, or?
The user receives the Shiba Inu coins immediately, right? Immediately. But the solver has to wait some time before they can go back to the chain on which the user actually has the USDC in order to repay them.
So that's the finality risk I was talking about. You guys were talking about deposit finality risk. I was talking about fulfillment finality risk. And there's still fulfillment with finality risk for solvers, right?
Yes, but just to be clear, the whole reason why this is safe for the solvers is because the smart accounts they can lock funds with a time lock. Yeah. So the user cannot run away with their USDC.
That part I understand. But what would happen if I spend so now the user has credited like $5 of Shiba Inu coin that's in the MagicSpend account, and now the destination chain reorgs. Would you do rollbacks and grant that back to the solver, or would the solver be essentially losing $5 because they were willing to take that finality risk?
Well, so I guess like that's why finality is a thing, right? You know, that like the solver is supposed to wait until it's finalized.
Okay.
Right? You know, before it goes.
Solvers maybe shouldn't, but can take finality risk. That's then the real conclusion, no?
You mean like if they want to repay themselves earlier? Is what I'm
no?
Like if they want to,
they were supposed to get $5.10, right? For giving the user these coins.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, does it even matter? Like, am I just completely off? If it reorgs, the solver gets their money back, and everything's just the same. So it doesn't matter because the fulfillment's not been done on the credit. I think.
Wait.
I was confused. There's no penalty risk here actually, because a rollback would just grant the solver their money back.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And
yes, that's right.
So okay, now I understand. Sorry, that was one layer of abstraction I was missing there. I was not abstracted enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no worries.
Awesome. There you go. I hope there's a lot of devs listening into the space, because I'm going to have to go back through and go through some docs just to understand what was said there myself. But maybe we can dive in that at another time. Before we wrap up on the hour, this has been an amazing chat. I think we could probably go for another hour, but schedules won't allow us to do so. Can people get involved in MagicSpend ++? Users can use those accounts now if they want to, if they're interested in trying that out. Where do we get people to?
Yes, so the product is in private alpha. You know, I wish I had like a public page that I can point people to, you know, but it's in private alpha right now. But anyone in this chat, you know, if you happen to be in this chat, feel free to DM either me or VC on Twitter. You know, I think our DMs are both open. You know, so if you are building a multi-chain application or multi-chain wallet, right? Or even like, you know, even if you're just building like a single chain application, but you want to serve users from many different ecosystems, right? Definitely get in touch, you know, because like that's like the problem that we're trying to solve, you know, to make it super easy for your users to navigate multiple blockchains, you know, to more easily use your application. Yeah.
Amazing. Make sure you do that. Jump into their DMs and get in touch today as well. Guys, it's been an amazing 60 minutes. I'd love to keep going. There's so much to rip into MagicSpend ++, but the docs are really good too, so if anyone wants to read more, jump into those as well. Next week, we'll be back with VC. Are you joining for Socket next week as well?
No, I'm not.
Oh, cool. We'll have
of course, no, I'll be there, man. I'm just kidding. Yeah, thanks for
pre-run.
Thanks for
Awesome. We'll be back next week with camp episode number 3, where we're talking with Socket, Enzo Finance. We're going to be diving into the world of intents. Jasper will be back for episode 3 as well, which is super exciting. Thanks so much for everyone for taking an hour out of your day. I know it's early where you guys are. Appreciate it all. Thank you, Derek. Thanks, VC. And of course, thank you, Jasper, as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, folks. Ciao.
Ciao.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks so much for hosting us. Yeah, see you.